We're back. And when I say back, we're back in a big way because Dr. Peter Vincent Pry is in the house virtually. He is one of America's preeminent authorities on a whole host of national security challenges, but most especially those that involve nuclear weaponry and strategy and capabilities. This is a subject to which he has devoted his life, going back to his days as an analyst at the Central Intelligence Agency, and of course, his extended service to our country as a staff member in various positions, including as a professional staff member of the House Armed Services Committee, and also as a member of two different blue ribbon commissions established to evaluate threats from nuclear weapons, including electromagnetic pulse. Dr. Pry is the author of countless articles and a number of books, including Blackout Wars. He is a senior fellow of our Center for Security Policy and always a very valued contributor to this program. Peter, welcome back to Securing America. Good to have you with us, sir.
Thank you for having me, Frank.
You've been writing a couple of pieces that are so topical that I wanted to spend a minute or two with you dwelling on their significant importance, Peter. One is a piece that you had at Newsmax. It's behind a paywall there, but I understand we can make it available to our audience through the EMP threat website. So give us those coordinates.
No,
but
not
it's
EMP
about
task
a key question.
force.us.
Can a nuclear war be won? And do our enemies think that's the case?
Yeah, the whole article, Nuclear War Can Be Won and Lost, is at emptaskforce.us. And yes, this article is written in response to the Biden administration's mantra that a nuclear war cannot be won and must never be fought. A statement that was jointly uttered by him and Putin at Geneva. But Putin is demonstrating right now in Ukraine how a nuclear war can be won. The late great strategist, I think he was one of the greatest thinkers of the past century, Colonist Gray, argued that ever since the invention of nuclear weapons in 1945, they have affected, just by their mere existence, nuclear weapons affect the mental geography of all war, all diplomacy, and of peace as well. And Gray would point, I think, to Ukraine as an example of how, even though the Russians are supposed to be on the ropes and are having great difficulties in the Ukraine war, NATO and the United States are deterred. They are, if Russia achieves a victory in Ukraine or manages to evade humiliation, it will be a nuclear victory for them, achieved by the mere threat, of their nuclear weapons. One has to think of nuclear weapons as a chess game, not a checkers game. Think of the role that the queen and the rooks play on the board. You might never actually employ them to take out another piece, but the very fact that those pieces exist on the board has the most profound influences on the way you play the game.
Yes. You can put someone in check, in other words, by those pieces being deployed properly, of course. Peter, when you talk about the nuclear warfighting thinking and strategy and capabilities of nuclear armed powers like Russia and China now, its strategic ally, and the fact that these are countries that are now jointly exercising the capacity to engage in thermonuclear attacks against the United States, discuss the seriousness with which they are pursuing this idea of nuclear warfighting and some of the other capabilities that we mostly ignore, I think to our extreme peril in this country, like leadership protection and civil defense and air defense and missile defenses deployed in comprehensive ways by such adversaries.
Unlike the Biden administration, Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran know a nuclear war can be won, and they are preparing to fight one. World War II was a nuclear war. The United States won that war, and a nuclear victory in that case looked like the unconditional surrender of Japan
Yes.
and the sparing of 1 million lives from invading the Japanese home islands. That's really all you need to know. Uh, Even an anti nuclear fanatic would have to admit that a nuclear armed state is going to be able to win a nuclear war against any country that doesn't have nuclear weapons, which is most of the nations in the world. And Russia and China are preparing not just to achieve nuclear victory against unarmed nuclear powers, but against the United States itself. That's why they have
Mhm.
deep underground facilities. Russia invests as much in defense, in civil defense, and active defenses like the 10,000 anti ballistic missiles and SAMs that ring their country for intercepting our ICBMs and bombers and cruise missiles, deep underground shelters that are impervious to nuclear attack. And amazingly, in the middle of these nuclear threats that happen daily against us from Russia, Biden is signaling that he really does believe a nuclear war cannot be won and must never be fought by disarming us. He's defunded the Slickum, the nuclear cruise missile, which was our best hope to compensate for the 10-to-1 advantage that Russia enjoys in tactical nuclear weapons. They have at least 2,000, some say as many as 8,000 tactical nuclear weapons against 200 tactical nuclear weapons, obsolete gravity
Wow.
bombs that aren't even really completely controlled by the United States. They're a NATO member state territory. And they are supposed to be delivered by the host country. Uh, the B-83 bomb, gravity bomb, they've decided to discontinue that as the last megaton class nuclear weapon in our arsenal. It was the only one that had any kind of a chance of destroying the deep underground facilities that
Mhm.
of Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran to put their leadership at risk. The one thing that would
Peter,
deter,
we have to pause at that point, but you're taking us to where I want to go next, which is this sort of disarmament agenda and priesthood that is telling us that actually nuclear warfighting can be prevented best by being completely vulnerable to it, which I believe is as crazy as it has ever been, but certainly today more so than we can stand. That's for sure. We're going to talk about that and much more with Dr. Peter Vincent Pry, nuclear thinker of the first order, and get his take on this so called nuclear priesthood of the arms controlling community right after this.